Welcome to the Beyond the Leash podcast, your number one source for everything canine. Eric Straetmans and Melissa Riley got you covered on the latest training tips, techniques, and more. No clicker training bullshit, constantly bribing with treats. Just balanced dog training that works. Now, here's your hosts, Eric and Melissa.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you happen to be listening to this Beyond the Leash podcast. Getting informed on dog training, dog techniques, dog skills, dog everything dog. I am here with the, as always, very beautiful and very talented Melissa Riley.
Hey, guys.
Say hello, Melissa. Again, welcome to another episode. Today's episode is very, very, very controversial.
Yeah.
What we're about to talk to about today is something. That goes again. Today's topic is going to be on the bark collar, not to be confused with a remote training collar. It's a totally different thing. And by the way, we have Gia in the house. Gia's in the house.
Hey, Gia.
Hey, Gia. Our little...
The look on her face just says, I'd rather be at home in bed right now.
Well, she's in bed now. Well, what's wrong with the bed here?
Yeah, she's in her place.
So, very controversial is the bark collar. I actually have, you guys can feel free to go on my Google reviews, which we'll talk about even in another episode, just all the crazy reviews I got.
Oh my gosh. That's lots of material
there's a Google review on here. And I am a proponent. What's the word I'm looking for? Advocate of bark collars.
So am I.
Absolutely 100%.
I'm a born again bark collar believer.
Why were you just from the South all of a sudden?
I don't know.
That was pretty good, though. I might get you to do a whole episode in the Southern accent. That might work. I have this. If you go far back enough, you'll see one of my reviews. Here's how the phone calls goes. Beyond the Leash can help you. And it was some girl with some little dog. She goes, "Hi, I got a dog, and I don't need training, but he's just barking like crazy, and I'm going to get kicked out of my place." And I said, why even train that? Just put a bark collar on it. Click.
Oh, my gosh.
That was the end of the phone call.
How dare you?
Immediately. And then the funny thing is, because when you leave a review on the Google reviews, because I got my email attached to Google or whatever, I get a notification. Somebody just left a review. And it was literally 5 minutes later, and this woman actually left a bad review about
what
the
kind
bark
of
collar.
evil monster suggests that you put a bark collar on my dog?
If I can do this properly, as we do this, I'm going to look for the review. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can read it word for word as we go. But anyway, taking it not word for word, she's like, I called this guy, and he did told me to put on a bark collar. Doesn't he know that those are inhumane?
Yeah.
It says something like that. I should have got this up before we started.
A lot of people think they're like super cruel to put on their dog.
Well, I think it's super cruel to have a dog that barks for 16 years of its life and annoying its whole family and the neighbors.
But the thing is, the dog's sometimes is not going to get 16 years of excessive barking. What normally happens with those dogs is sometimes they're surrendered. Sometimes they're euthanized due to the barking.
Absolutely, especially if you have a situation. We own our home, but their next door neighbors own their home, and if they couldn't live in an apartment with those two dogs. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know, we have our neighbors sold the house next to us, and we both have pools. And the people that moved in have these dogs, and they bark quite frequently. Yes,
all the time.
Hopefully, they're not listening to this.
They only bark while they're awake, so there's that.
Yes. And it's for no reason.
Yeah, it's just because that's how we live our life.
I'm in the backyard. I'm barking. I think one's a dachshund.
No, they're the same. It's from the Jack Nicholson movie, As Good as It Gets, I think.
I don't think I saw that one.
It's his neighbor's little dog. They have like a little beard. They're super cute.
I'm not going to I should have got this up before. I'm stupid. Well. But anyway, the review came immediately without coming to see me, without even trying the bark collar. I got this bad review that, oh my God, I use bark collars. I'm going to tell everybody. That's my solution to fix barking. I don't care what the situation is.
And it's such an easy solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to talk about with the bark collar is just this one woman that was probably about a year ago. Wasn't that long ago. This woman, Melissa, calls me with I think it was a Westie or Poodle mix. I never ever did actually meet the woman physically. So she calls me and her conversation goes like this. I don't really need your training, but I have this dog that I got and I love her to death, but I don't even want to take her on walks. She goes, she will bark at a squirrel. She'll bark at another person. She'll bark at another dog, and it's aggressively attacking kind of bark. She goes, my dog is a complete embarrassment to walk.
Yeah.
Just for that one reason, the barking alone. And I said, well, why don't you just use a bark collar? Because if you were to come into my school, which we'll talk about in a second, you would probably be forced to wear a bark collar anyway. Anyway. And this conversation probably went a half hour to 45 minutes. I'm basically trying to sell her that she's not going to hurt her dog by using a bark collar.
For people who don't know, what type of correction comes with that bark collar?
Well, I'm not going to, first off, Merrick, I used to, in the old days, we have a little story about that with the Jack Russell. I used to start off with, because there's different types of bark collars. There's one that gives some kind of sonic sound that apparently pisses dogs off.
But can humans hear it?
No, but
Okay.
I've never seen those work ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I've never heard one person say, I bought this, and they only come as collars. They come as something you put in your living room or whatever.
Right.
I've never, ever, ever seen those work. I don't even know if they do anything. Maybe it's just a box that they're selling to people for just to make money. I don't know. I've never heard anybody tell me that those have worked.
Okay.
Ever. The other one is some kind of spray, usually a citronella spray.
Yeah.
The same spray that keeps the mosquitoes away. The dogs tend to not like it either. So it sprays it in their face. And the last one is the static shock one, the dreaded shock collar.
Yeah.
The shock collar. Shock collar. I got a big bad shock collar. And again, we call them statics. I just call them E collars of any kind, but it's an E bark collar. And I don't want to do, because we'll do a whole episode just on the remote trainer collars.
Are you talking about e-collars?
E-collar trainer collars, but I don't want to go there. The difference between a bark collar and an e-collar has a button, it's got a remote, so the dog's wearing the collar and you control it. Where a bark collar, and they have different systems, but most of them have a sensor in them, and it places right in the place in the dog's neck. And if you right now, Melissa, touch your neck and just go, whoa. You feel that vibration when you hold. I guess a man would be his Adam's apple. Whoa! It's like a vibration, and there's usually a sensor on those. And when the dog barks, it picks it up. So it's absolutely immediate. Like there's no human error. It works whether you're home, whether you're not home. It works. So that's the bark collar I want people to use. And when I first started in this industry, those things hurt. They hurt a lot. It only had 1 or 2 levels, and it just shocked. They've come a long way, and it's different makes, different models, but most of them are graduating now.
Yeah.
So what'll happen is the dog will bark, and the sensor will pick that up, and it'll give them a very minor sensation, almost like when you walk across the carpet and you touch the doorknob.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's not, nothing's going to hurt.
That actually happened to me twice yesterday. I got shocked.
And did you stop barking?
Never.
See, it doesn't work. Didn't get you to stop barking. So it'll pick up the sensation. It'll give a minor one. And then I think most of them have like a 30-second thing in it, timer. And if they bark a second time in the 30 seconds, it's going to go up to level 2.
Right.
And a bark after another one goes up to level 3 and so forth. Because some dogs don't mind. Some dogs hate the 2. Some dogs can walk through a 2 like it's not even there.
Yeah.
Like they don't even, it's like a little mosquito bite that don't feel it. So they need a higher level. So it's almost learning the dog with each bark. And then if the dog is quiet without barking for 30 seconds, it resets itself. It does it on its own. You can put it on the dog. You can leave the home. That's it.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah, pretty much. And and that's the great thing. When you have a remote collar, that only works when you're there.
Yeah.
This works if you have a dog that's barking at home, annoying the neighbors or whatever when you're not home. which we'll talk about one couple dogs in particular. So anyway, let's go back to this woman. She calls me and she says, I can't stand walking my dog. I hate it. And I bark collar. And I spent literally a half hour trying to convince her that it's not going to hurt her dog.
Yeah.
And I still have this. I would have to look in Google Photos because I've changed phones a couple times since, I think, or once. But here's how the conversation goes. So I finally convinced her that maybe the bark collar is the right way to go.
Yeah.
And I said, just text me, because there's many different kinds of bark collar. And we have that one we have at home. I call it the Rolls Royce of bark collars. Yes. It was like $200, different sensitivity levels. It's got all kinds of settings. The average person doesn't need that.
Yeah.
The one we usually suggest, Melissa, you probably have it in your phone. I know Andrew said he's got that thing copied and pasted because we give it to so many people.
I think it's called PetSafe.
It is by PetSafe.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
When you are using any kind of electronics, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's an invisible fence. I don't care if it's a zone area where they have these things that keep them out of a zone, like away from gardens, or remote training. I don't care. If you're using electronics, you better use a reputable company.
Yeah. Because
you can buy these things from Amazon they're probably all made in China, I imagine. But the parts at least. But you can find some no-name. People have come into the school with something that looks like a toy. Yeah. And I'm like, what is this? I've never heard of this brand. And I've heard horror stories of these things, whether remote or bark, they go off and they don't stop.
Yeah.
Like it malfunctions and the dog's 50 yards away getting zapped and there's nothing you can do because you can't take it off the dog.
Yeah.
So anyway, I said, after this phone call, you send me a text. I will link you to a pretty reasonable, I think it's $53, something like that.
$57.
Yeah.
Best
I think it's
money
53
now.
53 right now. I know, I sent it all the time. It was 57. It went down. They had it on sale for a while at 47, and it's 53 right now. Mm-hmm. But whatever. It's made by PetSafe, which is a really reputable company. They're just PetSafe products are in every pet store on the planet, pretty much. So you're getting quality stuff. And I sent her this, and that was the end of the conversation. That was the end of the conversation, and whatever.
So she didn't sign up for your training?
No, she never signed up for any training. I never heard back from her. And I don't know if I should have said this before or after. The idea of a bark collar, I'll briefly go over it now. We'll get into more detail. Is the beauty of a bark collar is you wear it and you eventually don't need it anymore.
It's temporary.
Just like the invisible fences where they wear a collar, and it's the same thing. There's a zone around the yard, the perimeter of the yard. That zone, after about 2 months or so, the dog figures that zone out, and you could actually let them out without the collar. They're gonna stay away from that like the plague. So that's why they work. And
what's funny about that is everybody thinks that's the best thing ever. An invisible fence. This is so cool. This is going to save my dog's life.
Well, let's get to that later because I was going to bring exactly what you're bringing up because it's stupid that it's something that's thought of as a very smart thing to do with one, and it's the exact same thing, and it's stupid to do to stop barking.
Yeah.
Come on. So anyway, maybe 2-3 months goes by, and I get this text, Melissa, and it took me a while because I get so many texts, and I don't erase any of my texts ever.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why my phone slows down because I can't, because so much of my texts are business, so I got to see what the conversation, especially because clients lie to me. And they tell me they didn't know there was a class when I have a text telling them that there was a class.
Yeah.
It's coming up, blah, blah, blah.
Just for anybody listening, Eric always has the receipts, okay? So if you try lying, he's always got the receipts to back it up.
But anyway, so I get this text, and it's thanking me. Like, oh my God, you're my savior. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's been 3 months, so I don't know who I'm talking to. And I'm trying to figure out, and she says the dog's name, but I don't even remember the dog's name from the half an hour, 45-minute phone call. And so I scrolled up, and I can see that I've linked her the bark collar from PetSafe. So I know it's a bark collar issue. And then it dawns on me who this woman is. It's this woman that called me that couldn't get her dog to walk, and she was very, very, very apprehensive about using a bark collar.
Right.
And she's thanking me. She goes, oh my God, just like you said, I wore it for 2 months. It goes, the dog barked. This is what the text says. The dog barked for the first 2 or 3 minutes and actually yelped once, but then it was over. And then I couldn't believe the dog was, I don't remember if it was a female or female, but he didn't bark the rest of the walks. And he's been like that for 2 months. And then I finally took it off, and he's not barking without the collar now. It's been 3 weeks. He hasn't barked once outside. Yeah. He's been an angel.
Yeah.
And she says, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I actually screenshotted it, and I think I put it on the Beyond the Leash Facebook group page. Mm-hmm. And the reason being was, look at this. This is a bark collar, which she was apprehensive about using. And I saved it, and I posted it on the page because this woman didn't pay me a fucking dime.
Yeah.
She never paid me anything. I never made any money from this woman, but I just helped this dog and her owner's life forever.
Yeah.
Like for the next 14 to 16 years.
They're magic.
Yeah, they are so great. So a lot of people, like I said, that you can look it up, that review I got, that person should have wore a bark collar. I bet you that person doesn't even have that dog anymore.
Yeah.
You gave me a bad review. You probably don't have the dog anymore because you couldn't stop it from barking.
Yep.
It's a little side note, because you call other trainers and you ask them how to stop barking, and they'll say, oh, redirect them and then give them a treat. Or you actually, if I'm a dog, I'm going to bark because I know I eventually get a treat.
Yeah.
I'm going to bark just so I can shut up, so I get the treat that I was supposed to get. So that's ridiculous. And there's no other way to stop barking. What are you going to do? Yell at a dog? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Dexter. Melissa knows my old dog came from an old previous relationship, so we won't talk about that much because Melissa's right in front of me. But she knows, we're just kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway, I met this girl and we were dating for quite some time, and she got this dog, and this was when we first moved to Mississauga, and we lived in like a basement apartment over by Square One, and this puppy basically grew up there. That was where he grew up, and he had a chain link fence. He could see the neighbors. That's the setting he grew up with, like a neighbors on all sides, neighbors on all sides, and chain link fence. And then when he got about maybe a year and a half, 2, we moved to the Monaco Drive place by the airport. And I rented this full house because of the backyard. It was a corner lot. That's where kind of me and Melissa started dating. That's where I lived later on.
That backyard was epic.
It's big. It's big.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I got there. It wasn't actually the greatest area, but the backyard was great for dogs. It had a U-shaped backyard, and because it was a corner lot, now I got a wood panel privacy fence all the way down, literally from the front corner of the house all the way to the back corner of the house, and it was pretty big.
Yeah.
I'd say that would be about 30, 40 yards. Mm-hmm. And no neighbor, well, the neighbors on the back and this one side, but no neighbors on the left side. And not only that, there was a bus stop just down the street too, so there was a lot of
heavy traffic.
Yes. So we just moved into this house, and Dexter was never a barker. He'd bark a little bit when somebody came to the door, kind of like Gia does, just a couple little barks, Beppe, but nothing annoying, nothing excessive. I want dogs. Don't think I don't want dogs to bark.
Yeah.
I want Beppe to bark whenever someone rings our doorbell to know there's a trained killer dog.
Yeah. So
you might want to go rob the house next door with the cat.
Yeah.
Actually, Faith might protect us too. I don't know.
She's pretty badass.
So we move into this house, Melissa, and we're the new neighbors, kind of like the neighbors we have now. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be the guy with that barking dog that annoys everybody. And it would not matter if this was 2 a.m, 3 p.m, or 6 a.m. If we let Dexter in the backyard and anybody dared walk by that fence, because you got to remember, in Dexter's mind, now all he's seeing is shadows.
Yeah.
And he would, and he was pretty big, so he had a pretty menacing, deep, up and down the fence. And, that's worse because the grass is getting destroyed on the fence there. And it wouldn't be for 5 seconds. It would be for 4 or 5 minutes, literally.
Yeah.
And then when the person did finally pass the yard, he'd sit in the very corner where the fence meets and just continue to bark at them for the next 3 or 4 minutes, even after they walk by.
Yeah.
And I said to Bella at the time, which Melissa knows, I said, we got to get a bark collar on this fucking dog. And it was her dog. It wasn't my dog. And she was totally, no, I don't want to why would you put a bark collar? I go, the neighbors are going to hate us. We're going to be those people.
100%.
We're waking them up. Who knows, they're on shifts.
Yeah.
Sure, it's the afternoon for us, but that guy might be sleeping next door to us. He might be sleeping in the next yard over. So I said, we're putting a bark collar on this dog. Yeah. Now, Dexter, again, he would bark if we came home, a couple little excited barks. He's a bark when he plays. But it was that backyard that was the unwarranted, unnecessary, the barking that drove us crazy.
Yeah.
It would almost be like you'd want to get him in and I'd get him out and get him in quick because you wouldn't want anybody to walk by. That's how much we dreaded the barking.
It's like pretty anxiety inducing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Dexter's situation, the only time he wore that bark collar was when he was in the backyard. Mm-hmm. And I always say it's different for every dog, but you're going to wear a bark collar for anywhere for 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere in that zone. So we put the bark collar on it hung up by the back door. It was on a little peg. And before we put it on, it just clipped on and we let him in the backyard. And when he came back in, we took it off every single time he was in the backyard. And I told my ex, you're going to put it on every time he's in the backyard. And he hated it at first. I think the first couple barks he did, he might have even gave a little yelp, but he stopped literally within 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, he was done. And it worked. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's working. And I remember, I think it was about the 2 week mark. I came home and my girlfriend at the time was already home. So we were out separately. And I guess she had let Dexter in the backyard. So she's in the bathroom or whatever. And I come in and I go to let Dexter in and I reach down to take the bark collar off and it's not on. And I looked at her, I go, did you forget to put the bark collar on? And she's like, no, it's been so long he hasn't barked. I don't think he needs it anymore. I go, who's the dog trainer, me or you? I said, here's the problem with taking it off too early. I go, heaven forbid he barked back there. He's smart. He's going to figure out that it's the collar.
Yeah.
And then here's the problem with that. Now we need it for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him to figure out that, hey, it was off one day, I barked and I wasn't getting any corrections. Mm-hmm. So now we need it forever. That's a terrible, terrible thing. So the idea is to get it on. And again, I don't even know what that number is. Anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks in that setting. Yeah. So that's Dexter. He never wore it on walks. He never wore it when we were left. He never wore it any other time. He never wore it at the school at the time. He only wore it in the backyard because that was where the barking was a problem.
So I had similar experience with Harper.
Yes.
When I moved onto that house on Ash Row.
Yep.
So same thing. Chain link down both sides.
Oh, you had a catwalk.
Yes.
That's even
know.
worse.
There
was a catwalk that led to the park, so constant
traffic, constant dogs, skateboards, bikes, kids, and every time she would charge the fence and be like barking crazy. She's very reactive.
And they're not really bad.
No.
I don't even, they're just protecting their space. That's their home. Maybe they think that's their job, so they're not even really being bad.
But I had also 4 teenagers living there with me at the time.
3 of yours and then one you inherited.
Yep. And they were in and out of the backyard. So I thought, oh my God, there's no way
I forgot there was a catwalk.
Yeah.
There.
So trying to manage.
And a catwalk with a chain link fence. It wasn't a privacy fence.
It was a nightmare. I thought the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to get kicked out of this place. So instead of trying to manage all of these kids coming and going, I just elected, I'm going to keep this collar on her. Like, you can wear it for 12 hours a day. So I would just get up in the morning, put it on. And it was only a few weeks. And just like you said. So when we took it off of her, she might charge that fence, but not a peep comes out of her mouth.
Because they just associate that spot with getting the corrections. And like I said, corrections, they work. If you're consistent, they'll stop doing whatever behavior created the correction. Yeah. They'll keep doing if you reward something.
So likewise, just a little bit of a different scenario. She was also very reactive towards any other dogs on walk.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about that?
Well, that's I had somebody with a German Shepherd, and they weren't even reactive. Their dog was big, and he had a very menacing bark, even though he was friendly. Trust me, I knew this dog, friendliest guy in the world. But because it was so deep and scary, they said, everybody's terrified of our dog. Yeah. They see our dog barking and they want to, but he's friendly. Trust me, I knew the dog. He'll kiss you to death.
Yeah.
He wasn't even like, he didn't have a bad bone in his body as far as for aggression. So their situation, I told them, wear a bark collar on your walks. Yeah. It'll be over. Let's put the bark collar on before we leave the house, just like we would put on a training collar or whatever, and then take it off when you go home. You don't need it in the backyard like I needed. Her dog never barked in the backyard, never barked at home, never barked when anybody rang the doorbell, just out of excitement when he saw people. And their problem was that we don't care. He's excited, but he's scaring everybody. Yeah. He's 110 pounds.
Now, when you do have a reactive dog, that's maybe a dog.
Yeah, but too early for that. Too early. We're going to get into that because I want to go do this in sequence. Right. So we got one dog. Me and Melissa both had dogs that had to have it on in their backyard.
Yeah.
We have another person that only had to have it on the walks. I had another woman call me, and she was in a not a very big apartment, but like a 3-level apartment building, and she said, she called me and she said she was getting like that Chihuahua or whatever that put the bad review.
Yeah.
She said, I'm getting kicked out of my place if I don't do something about the dog, or I have to get rid of the dog. And her dog wasn't barking on walks like mine, your dog was, or that German Shepherd wasn't. They didn't have a backyard, but he wasn't even barking when she was home. It was nothing like that. What was happening is when she was going to work for 8 hours, the neighbors complained that the dog was barking virtually 80% of the time.
Damn.
In an apartment when she was gone, not when she was home, not when she was out, not when she was home, not when she was out, but only when she left the dog at home alone, which was driving the neighbors insane. So I said to her, I go, put a bark collar on, because that's the only place it's going to happen. The only time that she needed the bark collar on was when she was there. I mean, when she wasn't there. That's the only time she needed to stop the barking. She didn't need to stop it any other time. So in her situation, let's go with this. In my situation was only in the backyard. And somebody else's situation, the person on the walks, was only on the walks, and her situation was only when she left the dog at home. Only when she left the dog at home. So it depends on where you're barking. It's not going to stop barking completely. I want a dog to bark. But where the barking is a nuisance, that's what we're going to do. I had this one dog, very similar, same situation. She had an apartment, and she came to the lessons, and her dog was worse. Her dog was barking at everything. But she said the main problems were when she left the dog home alone, and when she came to like a school setting or a park setting. And she came in, and I told her, I go, you're going to have to get a bark collar on before we train this dog in my class. Because I cannot have one dog ruin a whole 10 weeks for everybody. You've seen it. I won't let that happen. Because then I got group classes. I got 12 people, and 2 dogs are barking the whole time. Everybody gets upset. They can't hear me, even though I'm Britney Spears and I got a microphone system on here with a speaker system. Nobody can hear me. So I told her, you're going to have to put this bark collar on before you take my class. And the woman showed up on the first day. Remember, the first day is very stressful. I told her, put it on early, like put it on before you get here. Put it on your walks where it's not as stressful as a room full of dogs. That's a lot more stressful. So she would put it on, and I told her to put it on, but she showed up to the first day. It's still in the package. Like, you know, those ones that are impossible and you need an X-Acto knife to cut open. It was still in that package. Hadn't been used at all. I go, why did you wait till now? And her dog's barking like crazy. So I take it out. I put the batteries in, blah, 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 blah. And then I put it on the dog. And, of course, dogs hate it. They hate it. But they're also smart. It takes them about 2 minutes. I said, give me 2 or 3 minutes. Probably not going to like it at first. If he liked it, it wouldn't work. And we put it on. And he barked. And the first one, remember, it was just a little one. And he kind of, he barked at that with this weird look on his face. Like, what was that? And so it went higher. Now he's yelping a little bit, and he's barking at the yelp, and it's raising every time. Remember this, Melissa?
Lord. And
this woman is like, you could see the panic on her face, and she's actually almost got a tear in her eye. And I'm Eric. I don't fucking care. You know what I said to her? I said, stop. I go, do not cry now. Do not cry now. I go, because here's what's going to happen. You're not going to find an apartment that lets a dog bark all day.
Yeah.
And you're not. Unless you can afford a house sometime in the next 3 months, you're going to get kicked out of that place, or you're going to have to get rid of the dog. Those two things are going to, and this dog's slowing down as this conversation's going. I go, and then you're going to give the dog to a shelter. Or you're going to try to give them away to a friend. But nobody wants a dog that barks all day when they're gone. Nobody. And then you're going to give the dog to a shelter. And nobody's going to adopt a dog that barks like this guy. Because he was insane. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, and then 6 months from now, they're going to euthanize this dog. I go, that is when I want you to cry.
Yeah.
Don't cry now. And by the time I was done this conversation, the dog had already stopped barking completely.
Yeah.
And again, that was the first day of a 10-week program. I think we had it off in week 5 or 6.
So that's the question. Like, and again, this is something, it's a static correction. that you would say it's uncomfortable? It's
Absolutely.
not painful. It's uncomfortable.
Well, maybe if it goes up a little high, but they'll learn at the right one. And they'll once they figure out that what's controlling it, they're not dumb.
But for somebody who's uneducated on the collar and is just labeling them inhumane, okay, let's go with that. What's more inhumane? Having to wear a temporary bark collar or possibly having to euthanize a dog, way before its time because of it's being such a nuisance. Like it's crazy.
So let's talk about, because I've changed over even maybe 10, 15 years ago. I used to start, my first suggestion would be the less intrusive bark collars, the citronella. That would be my first take. And to me, the citronella will work, but it'll only work with about 20% of dogs. Yeah. And again, let's talk about this. The citronella comes with a box. You fill it up, not like unlike a butane lighter, with a bottle of citronella, and you fill it up. Like those butane lighters.
Yeah.
What are they called?
The Zippos.
The Zippos. You got to fill it up, and it's only got so much gas in it.
Yeah.
So you fill it up with this citronella, and it can empty. But I've seen dogs. Remember, just like the spray.
Yeah.
Some dogs like that taste of the bitter no chew. They lick it off.
Some dogs eat their own poo.
Yeah. So I've seen dogs, remember, that sprays a mist into their nose and mouth, and they can taste the citronella. I've seen dogs bark, and then they're trying to bite the mist. They're like trying to get it in their mouth. I'm like, well, this ain't gonna work. So it does work with maybe 30 or 40% of dogs. So I have this story of why I stopped that. Had to be close to 12 years ago now. I had a Jack Russell Terrier, a woman call me, a couple. And they said that was their problem too. The dog was barking whenever they weren't. They said even a lot, even when they're home, if anybody walked by the hallway, you could hear it. But especially when they were gone. And they had a condo. They owned it. And when I first went to this place, it was 12 years ago. It was like on Bay Street. It was literally like a penthouse. Yeah. It was 2 floors. Reminded me of the one on, what was that Gary Coleman show I used to watch when I was a kid? What was that? But remember, they lived in an apartment and they were rich and they had 2 stories. Yeah. I can't even remember. What was the name of that show? Not Three's Company. It was, I can't remember.
I don't know.
The Gary Coleman show, everybody knows that. So this apartment looked like that when I got there. It was on Bay Street, 2 floors, like furniture worth whatever. And I remember they told me to park in one of their parking spots, and all their parking spots. They had a Jag, they had this, so these people had some money.
Yeah.
And I get there, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to get kicked out of this place." And I go, "What do you mean? I thought you said it was a condo. You own it." They go, "Oh yeah, we own it." But here they showed me. Warning number 1 from the condo committee. Warning number 2. Oh, now it's gone to court, like legal court. And they had a paper that said, I don't remember what date this was, but by April 16th, this problem must be fixed or we're forcing you to sell.
Wow.
You're going to be forced to get out. The dog goes or you go, one of the two. And they go, we're not going to get rid of our dog. We love our dog. They didn't have kids. They were like very well-off people that wanted to, but the dog was their kid. So they're like, we're not getting rid of this dog, Eric. And the first thing I suggested was a citronella collar. I remember this was 12 years ago, something like that. And when I put a citronella collar on a dog, I will induce a bark. Because you got to see if they don't like it. What I mean, like I'm excited. Come on, buddy. And bow. And you can see the spray go in his face. And you were looking for the lemon face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by a lemon face?
The sour face.
Yeah. And I could tell right away. I go, we're golden. Because some dogs don't care. I go, he hates this. I already know it's good. And so that was it. I said, put this on. It's going to spray him in the face. He's going to stop barking. And he even stopped barking there. And probably about 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, maybe 2. And the citronella I'll leave on for longer than the e-collar. I'll leave it on for 3 or 4 months before I attempt to take it off because it's non-intrusive, so I'm not worried about it. And about 2 weeks later, I get this email from them, again, praising me to the clouds. I mean, oh my God, thank you so much. We love our dog. And the neighbors are saying he's quiet now. We love it. Thank you. Then maybe about 2 weeks after that, I get this phone call. Beyond the Leash, can I help you? Hi, it's us. He's barking again. Great. And I go, and because these things have batteries in them, and again, you have to fill it so it empties. And I'm like, are you making sure the thing's full? And they go, we fill it every morning, even if it doesn't need to be full. Before we leave for work or before we leave for the office, we make sure it's full, and we fill it, make sure the batteries are going too. And I go, that's weird. I'm going to go down there and see you. So I went down there, and this was so long ago. I think they still had beta cams with the tape in it. It was like 12, 13 years ago. So they still had those beta cams, if you know what I'm talking about. So I went in there, and I put it on him, and I made sure it was full in the battery, and I induced a bark, and I could see he still hates it. I could see his face, the lemon face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. This is weird. So I said, and they like I said, I'd like to leave and find, and they said, oh, we got a cam tripod in the other room. So we got the cam, we blocked off the one hallway. So we only had the living room and kitchen, and we put the camera in an angle where we could see most of it. And I said, okay, let's put the bark collar on. It's full. It's got a battery. Let's put the bark collar on. Let's go to Tim Hortons or wherever. I think we went down the end of the street just to a coffee shop, whatever. And I go, let's see what happens. So we were gone. We put it on him. You could see, I actually induced a bark. He didn't like it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I don't know why he's barking. So we left. And we were gone for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. So okay, let's go back, see what's up. And when the elevator opened, I could hear him before the elevator opened, and they were down the hall a little bit. And the elevator opened, and you could hear it. Bye, 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 bye. I'm like, Jesus Christ. No wonder your neighbors hate you if this is what they hear. So we walk there, we get in there. He's running around, he's barking. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Tail wagging.
So right away, we took the tape out of the video machine.
Yeah.
And we put it in. And we see this, Jack Russells are sometimes too smart for their own good. We see this brilliant MF dog. And remember, it goes by voice box vibration, so he doesn't have to bark loud. As soon as you feel that vibration on your neck, it gives the spray. Mm-hmm. And they had this big couch from, I don't know, Africa or something. It had all these cushions on it. You know what I'm talking about? It was more for display than sitting. But these beautiful cushions, and it looked like you could sleep on this for days. Yeah. And this dog would jump up onto this couch with all these pillows, and he'd bury his neck, like his head and neck, into the pillows. And he'd go, bah, 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 bah. And then after about 10 of those, he'd take his head up and go, bah. And then it would spray. And then he put his head back in the pillows. Bah, 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 bah. And then he kept checking it. And after about 3 or 4 of these times, he'd emptied the citronella. He learned, he was so smart. He's a fucking jerk. Yeah. He learned that if he barked into the pillows enough, he could empty that citronella. So there was nothing left. Unload the canister. Oh now he's running around barking.
Hysterical.
So I've never seen anything in my life. I go, your dog might be the smartest dog I've ever seen. Like I'm watching this on the screen of the TV. I'm like, I've never seen a dog even figure this out. So I said, you know what? We got to go to a e-collar. We got to go to one that's going to zap them. Yeah. There's nothing else up my sleeve. That's the next step. Yeah. So they like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So we went and got them a bark collar, a proper e-collar one, and we put that on them. And again, I said, this one, you're probably going to hate a little more than the spray because it's not going to feel nice. And again, it worked right away. And I said, okay, here's your new rule. You're going to put this on for about 5 to 6 weeks, and then we're going to take it off. And I said, don't just take it off. What you're going to do is you're going to take it off. You're going to tell your neighbors. Yeah. Don't go to work. Say, hey, we're just going to, like we did, just go for a half hour. And then they came back, no collar now. They came back. I wasn't with them. I just told them, I told them to do this. Yeah. Leave for the first day for 40 minutes and come back and knock on your neighbor's door and go, was there any barking? And they're like, no. And then they increased that to an hour, increased that to 2 hours. And they got to the point where they could leave for 8 hours and this dog had stopped barking. And now he's not even wearing the bark collar. It's gone. Not even wearing it. And you know what they said to me? And this is when I changed. They said, oh, thank you again, praising my name. They said, but why did you waste, we were in a hurry. Why did you waste our time and money on that other collar? Yeah. I said, because people look at me like I'm the fucking devil when I tell them to put a bark collar. They literally look at me like I'm some kind of evil asshole. Yeah. That's why I used to start with, and ever since that day, I said, let's forget let's skip that step that's only going to work with 20 or 30% of dogs. Yeah. Let's go right to the one that actually works. What Melissa was saying earlier about the aggression. And then let's go to this first. We'll come to that after this because you're going to know. I didn't even tell you I'm going to talk about this. We will use it on dogs, and it'll stop aggression, and I'll talk about that later too. It'll take away. I tell people, you put a bark collar on your dog, especially if the aggression is coming from they see another dog. Rah, 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 rah. You put a bark collar on, and that takes away 90% of the aggression. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. One time and one time only did I see a dog that it was actually bad to put it on.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about.
I'll never forget.
and you're talking, I don't know, it's in the thousands, maybe 5,000 dogs I've told to put a bark collar on, or clients I've suggested that to in that many time. One time we put it on an aggressive dog in the school, and he felt it, and he kept barking, and it kept getting worse, and he kept barking,
then
and he kept barking,
like the alligator
and
then
he kept barking, and we panicked, and that was the only time ever in the history of me doing this did I say, okay, it didn't work on him, and he was going to bark through it no matter what.
Yeah,
like it was hurting him. We had to rip it off.
Yeah,
that was a one-off. That was the only time I've ever seen that. Do you remember that dog's name?
No.
But we did see the owner at the gym at LA Fitness that one day. So it was all good. It was just that was one dog in a million that it just wasn't the right idea. Yeah. Now, here's another funny thing. Let's talk about this because this is kind of funny. I got my Facebook group page and you got the Instagram, and I got like almost, I think we're going on 4,000 on the Facebook group page. I think something like that. And I got my own personal page, which has my 500 friends on it. There's not really many friends, all clients. Well, clients are friends too, but they're two are separate. My personal page, I actually have a few clients on my personal page, but I don't like to put people on my personal page for my business because it can get a little political. Opinionated. Well, I get opinionated on dog training too, but I stick to the dog training. I don't talk about COVID or whether you should wear a mask or not, or whether you should get a vaccine or not. I don't want to get involved in that because people are too dramatic over that stuff. So I like to stay Switzerland and stay away from it. So I sometimes when I put things on the group page, I'll cross promote, or if we're going to do an event, I'll say, hey, we're doing an event here. If anybody on my friends page wants to see me train, we're going to be at this park or whatever. So sometimes I'll cross promote things, take one from one page and put it on the other. And I had something on there about bark collars, and I put it on my personal Facebook page. And I had my own friends, like people that know I've been doing this for 20 years that are my friends, come at me in the comments and the private messages. Oh, Eric, I knew you trained dogs, but I didn't know you used those evil bark collars. Yeah. I didn't know you were a shock dog collar trainer. Oh my God. And I said to them, shut the fuck up. Literally, shut up. If you only knew how many dogs I saved from going to a shelter, or worse yet, being euthanized. I would probably say it's in the 2000s.
Yeah.
In the last 25 years. Dogs that the barking was the reason that the owner was going to get rid of the dog, and that was the only reason.
Yeah.
Forget training. The barking was either causing a nuisance or just so bad, like that woman on her walk. She wouldn't have enjoyed her dog for 16 years. Yeah. And I said, you know how many dogs I've saved from being euthanized? And you're going to tell me this tool is bad? Shut up.
Yeah,
absolutely. Shut up. Get out of here.
Well, and a lot of that is coming just from ignorance, right? Yeah. People know nothing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that. We will use it. And for those of you that don't know, there's a disclaimer on my website. If you're going to sign up and you bring me a dog that's not socialized properly to do a class, I can't have that dog. Yeah. Can't have him in a class. Again, I refuse to have 12 people give me $399 their hard-earned money, and one or two dogs ruin it for everybody.
And again, that's for a dog that comes in here and just is barking excessively the whole time.
And I usually say, if you're going to bring a dog in, I'll let him in, but I have to see him first because they make them stipulations. And the one stip is that I think a dog's a bite risk, they're wearing a muzzle. And the second one, I'm looking for the barking. And if it's barking that's going to upset the whole class for 20 minutes, barking here and there in the classroom is pretty normal.
Yeah.
But I mean, upsetting the class for 20 minutes, he's wearing a bark collar. That's it.
Yeah.
Wearing a bark collar. So that's what I'm going to use, and it'll take away the aggression. And I always say it like this. I remember when I was a youngster and I
love this analogy.
I was a stupid asshole and we were kids.
There was a time when you were a stupid asshole? That's not like still exists.
Maybe a little now.
Okay.
But I mean like a young, immature kid where we go to a bar, a nightclub or whatever, and we get in fights.
Yeah.
That's what kids do. Jaden does that now, I think. We'll have to stop
Let's hope he's growing out of that.
Hopefully he goes out of that. But we'd go there and get in a fight. But I used to tell people, when me and my friends would get in a fight at a bar, nobody would just walk up and punch somebody. You got to stand up. You put your chest in there. You push. You got a problem, buddy? You got a problem, buddy? And without that, you take that away, it's almost like my friends wouldn't even know how to throw a punch.
Right.
You wouldn't even know how.
There's some like shit talking involved, right?
And then let's talk about this because we don't have a whole lot of time. We're almost done here. We actually went way overboard with this one. When sometimes dogs will come into class and they don't know that their dog's going to bark, or they assumed, rightfully so, that their dog wasn't going to bark. They assumed. We just happened recently, Monday night class. There was a beagle?
I think that one was a pug.
Was he a pug? Yeah, he is a pug, maybe.
Or a Frenchie pug or something.
Yeah, something like that. And the class started, and she was one of the last ones to come in, and the dog was not like just a little bit. And I
not even coming up.
And I looked at this woman, and I said, "You are leaving this. You got to get out. Melissa's going to teach you in the front. It doesn't mean you're kicked out. I can't have you in this room." It was the first day. All the dogs, nobody could hear me. I said, "Get out. Get out. Go over there. Trust me, Melissa will take you. She's going to teach you this lesson on your own in the other room." Mm-hmm. And what did she say to you when she went in the other room? I said, "You ain't coming back without a bark collar."
Yeah.
I said, "Melissa, explain to her which one to get. We're going to get a bark collar on this dog before she's allowed back in the room."
Is he always this rude to his clients?
What did she really say?
Yeah, she thought you were a jerk.
I thought she said, "Is he always this fucking rude?"
Yeah.
And the dog came back, and the dog was an angel with the bark collar on next week.
Has been ever since.
Yes. And remember, I think this week, I told them either this week, I think they're in week 4, 5, 6 maybe. Mm-hmm. I told them within the next week or two, I'm going to have you take that bark collar off, and I bet she's not going to bark again.
Yeah.
So a bark collar is the best solution for...
Bark collars save lives.
Yeah, they save lives, and they save your... Because what are you going to do? Just yell? Like when Dexter was barking in the dark, what am I going to do? Open the window? Hey, shut up, Dexter. What's that going to do? That's not going to do anything.
And again, you touched on a really good point there. You know, dogs' lifespans vary, but even if it's making your walks that unpleasant, do you really want to sign up for that for the next 16 years?
I bought my dog to enjoy a dog.
Absolutely.
To give unconditional love to and from.
Yeah. And
enjoy the dog out and walks at the parks, at the beaches. I don't want a dog that I don't want to take outside.
Yeah.
Terrible. What was my last point I was going to make? Oh, yeah, we kind of touched on this. If, Melissa, someone said to you, "Hey, I live going out to Milton, you know, those country roads.
Yeah.
And I live on the side of like Highway 2 or whatever.
Two-lane highway.
And I have a house with a whole bunch of property that I'm not going to fence in. It's farmland kind of stuff." And they said, "I'm going to put the invisible fence in." Most people would go, "That's a very smart idea.
Best thing ever.
Very smart idea." You know what an invisible fence does? They wear a collar and they put the sensor under the ground. And you're supposed to train it. You're not just supposed to put them out there. You're supposed to take them out because the same thing will happen. Just like the bark collar, and the first bark starts low and works its way up to a higher intensity electric stimulation. When he gets 10 feet from the fence, it goes off small. If he gets 7 feet from the fence, it gets higher. If he gets 5 feet from the fence, the invisible fence, it gets higher. So he learns to avoid that. And what the funny thing is, what people don't know is if you take that dog out and they wear the collar every day, just like I said with Dexter, wear it for 2 months, you actually can let the dog out without the collar anymore. So they could walk right through that zone. Yeah. But they literally will avoid that zone like the plague with or without the collar. Because it's taught them that that's someone they want to avoid. So if you want to teach a dog to avoid barking, they're going to understand, don't bark, whether it's the collar on or not.
Yeah, I'm creating this unpleasant feeling whenever I bark, right?
Yes. So, and that's why it's great just to solve the barking, because
You don't have
the
to be
human
there.
timing is wrong. Even if you reached for the remote, and it's too late. Even 2 seconds, even a second is too late. It's got to have a simultaneous with the bark, so the dog knows what's creating that correction. So, anything to add, Melissa?
I think that's it.
So, bark collars.
They're magic.
If your bark barks, get a bark collar. It's simple. It's going to cost you a
Make
little bit.
your life easier.
Makes your life way, way easier. Okay, so that's another podcast.
So don't forget, guys, download, subscribe with your favorite podcast carrier, and rate us.
Rate us.
What did you think of
I
today's
didn't even know
podcast?
you could rate us.
I know.
Oh, these microphones pick up that.
Wow.
That's a big diesel truck that just started outside.
They woke Gia out of her nap.
That's why we need those things on the wall. We're getting those things to settle down the noise a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another podcast in the books. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Beyond the Leash podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow on all social media platforms. For more information or to connect with Eric and Melissa, check us out at beyondtheleash.ca. We'll see you next time.